to greet you again today. Welcome back. This is Tom Stapleton from Camp to Mead. Just wanted to bring you an update today. I felt compelled, you might say. A lot of things going on right now. We just felt, you know what, we got to touch bases with you and give you our version. And I kind of emphasize that, our version. You're listening out there, there's lots of voices, and who knows what the truth is. You know, the old Bible text that says truth is fallen in the street. You know, we often think of that as spiritually speaking, the word of God is fallen in the street, but truth, entire truth is fallen in the street. You're listening to news, you don't have no idea what's true and what's not anymore, and there's definitely problems out there. So we just want to bring you up to speed on what we're looking at. And so many people are very concerned about what's going on in the United States. And, you know, I live in Canada, and people are just going about their business, not even thinking. But if what happens in the States that we think will happen, it's going to change the lives of every Canadian citizen. And they need to be completely aware of that. But of course, Canada is completely asleep. There's a few people awake, but so I hope we're reaching a few of the Canadians right now. Because if we have serious times in the United States in the next few weeks or months, that's going to bring lots of problems to Canada. Most of the food that we get comes through the United States, whether it's from South America, Mexico, or the United States, California, Florida, etc. Those shipping lines could totally be stopped. And we've already heard from the truckers, if something happens, they will stop shipping to the bigger cities, which would include shipping to Canada as well. So let's give you a little update as far as our version of things is concerned. We're looking at the election, we're looking at election fraud, all the different aspects of that, and there's lots of news sources, fairly good ones that you can look at. I'm thinking of Epic Times, Rumble.com, and there's a number of other ones, but those are two that are pretty good. And this election fraud, it's pretty much proven now. It just is a matter of what side people are going to be on. Really, that's really what it is. Do you want to be on the side of the conservatives? And I know there's some problems on the conservative side, but really, the conservative side is made up of believers for the most part. There's obviously people that aren't believers, but they just want to do the right thing, which means they're conservative, and that's good. Also, on the other side, I would say, would be the side of liberal. That means those are the people that anything goes, as long as you're not, doing anything against your conscience, and their conscience is not educated according to the Word of God, so anything goes as far as they're concerned. So we have two sides developing, and when we look at biblical aspects in regard to prophecy, we can see that there will be two sides in the time of the end, those that serve God and those that don't. And we can see glimpses of that right now. People are taking sides. Those that want to get back to the truth in God's Word, and those that want to get away from it. They don't even like hearing the name of Jesus or Yeshua or anything like that, because they know restrictions come. Restrictions as far as pro-choice, and also gay, lesbian rights, and so on. So their rights, they believe, are infringed upon when the conservative values are put forward. So we have two sides developing, and that to me is really, really interesting. Even though on the conservative side we see people that don't have all the truth, and they maybe keep Christmas, Easter, and so on. But these are people that have biblical values, and they want to uphold those biblical values. So they want to stick to the conservative values, which is good. And so we want to, I would say, we would want to support that side. And that supporting what side? I mean, you would support it in maybe your prayers. There'd be a lot of different ways you can support it. But at least in our prayers, we want to pray for those that are really after conservative values. And I would say number one that we want to talk about is prayer, because prayer is the key really that opens a lot of doors. We need to pray for ourselves and so on, for our spiritual readiness, our physical readiness and preparedness. But we also want to pray for others as well. Those that are on their walk and underway, but those that are getting on their way. And I want to briefly talk about those people. Those are people that are waking up to the idea that something major is about to happen. They don't know really what it is, but they're searching. They're trying to figure it out. They want the truth. They don't have the truth, but they want the truth. And that's where we come in. We can help those people along by praying for them, that their eyes are opened, and that at the right time and the right moment, we will have a word in season for them so that they can grow, so they can move forward in their faith. So this is a great opportunity. I believe the Father is drawing a line in the United States of America, which is really the last stand for true Judeo-Christian values. The United States was founded on these values. It was made great on these values, but we've seen over the last several years that it's been going down, 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 and that's because we're getting away from these values. Well, there is the conservative side of this that wants to get back to those values. And it is a form of repentance and turning back to God, which is wonderful. Now, we know where this is going in prophecy. Ultimately, biblical values will be mandated, but there will be some incorrect biblical values, and the right will take it too far. But we want to look at today how that's going to happen. As we're looking at Bible prophecy, everyone's talking about wars and rumors of wars and so on. These are the words of Yeshua in Matthew 24, verse 6, and so on. Mark 13, Luke 21. We see that discussion that Yeshua had, that in the time of the end, it would start with war and rumors of wars. Luke goes on to say commotions, which is civil unrest. We are right there, right now. Wars, rumors of wars. I don't know if any of you are listening to what's going on. We understand China is on the move, Russia's on the move, Iran's on the move, Israel is in a state of readiness, and the United States military is also in a state of readiness. So we're hearing wars and rumors of wars and civil unrest. That's where we are. Also says that follows on the heels of that, there will be famines, pestilence, and earthquakes. And when we see earthquakes, we're talking about natural disasters of various kinds. That could be tornadoes, hurricanes, cyclones, and so on. All of those types of things. Also, don't rule out the idea of asteroids, incoming space debris would come in too, and we may see some other things that would be rather catastrophic from the effects of that. So these are all warnings of what's coming. So we've seen the pestilence thing. We've had our warning about that. When the real thing comes, when what Yeshua actually spoke about, when he spoke about pestilence, he was not talking about COVID-19. He was talking about things that would actually kill multitudes of people. Something like the bubonic plague. These are the kind of scale of events that Yeshua was talking about. But this is a warning. Now, what has come with that? Well, vaccinations. This is another warning. So vaccinations will become more talked about, widely used, because when the real deal comes, when the real pestilences come, they will be scrambling for these vaccinations. And of course, they won't have time to do the proper research, and like many are saying, people will die, multitudes will die just because of the vaccination. So this is, our Father in heaven is merciful. He's shown us in advance what's coming, and we need to be prepared. So how can we be prepared for pestilence? Well, pestilence usually is where many people are gathered, large populations and so on. That's where it spreads. So here's the first thing that I like to recommend is people find yourself a place outside of the large centers. And I know I've talked to people, and I just want to say this because we've had people phone in and talk to us and email us and say, we've been trying to get out of the cities and it just nothing opens up. I would like to encourage people is to find people that are able to do this. Not everyone's going to be able to do this, but thank God some people are going to be able to do this. So contact people that you know or that you've heard of are doing this. And I would like to encourage people to invest in those people that are able to do that. Now, how does investing, what does that look like? That would mean putting money into, say, a safe place where you're going to be able to go one day. Maybe you can't get away now. Invest your time into it. Go and help people make these preparations. Do something. Everyone can do something. Start reading about what you may need in a situation. Start gathering things together that when a time came that you may have to flee, that you would be able to have things in your car ready to go and so on. There's lots of preparation you can make. Grab some books on maybe wilderness living, preserving food, and so on. The other thing that I like to encourage people is find out how you can be healthy, build your immune system up. These are all things you can do to build up your body, make it stronger so that it can withstand these assaults from these pestilences that are going to come. So there's always something you can do. Don't say that there's nothing you can do. I encourage people to do something. This is what our Father wants. Show your faith by your works. Do you actually believe what's coming is going to come? Because if you do believe something, you will be set in motion. So start doing something. And as you walk forward, I can guarantee you is that another door will be open, and then another door and another door. So keep moving forward. Do not stand still. There's no such thing as standing still in the Christian faith. You're either going forward or you're going backwards. There's no treading water in this. We need to keep moving forward. So those are some of the things that you need to do. Now, I want to get into just a little brief look at prophecy as we understand it. My belief is that Donald Trump is portrayed in biblical prophecy. Where is it? It's Daniel 8, Daniel 11. And I want to look at some of these verses. We've been talking for many years that the United States will lead a charge against the Islamic nations. The Islamic nations are going to ultimately join. They will try and fulfill their concept, their apocalyptic concept of the time of the end, and that is when Allah will reign on the earth, Sharia law will be everywhere. Well, the West and Europe and the rest of the world, the Chinese people, they've shown they've had Islamic problems themselves. Everyone knows about that. The Uyghurs and so on. Russia has had their challenges with Islam, but right now nobody's really doing too much about it. But when Islam makes their move for world dominance, this is when the world will realize this is the war that's spoken of by in Daniel chapter 8. It talks about a ram and a he-goat. Now the ram is Islam, and it will join and become very strong. It will become great, the prophecy says. That's the first 5 verses of Daniel chapter 8. This is Islam that's talking about the kings of Media and Persia. That's Daniel chapter 8, verse 20. Talking about these kings of Media and Persia. You overlay the kings of Media and Persia back in Daniel's day at the height of their empire, and it's exactly where the Middle East is, from Libya to Afghanistan and so on. So that whole area. So in the time of the end, it talks about that in Daniel chapter 8, verse 17. Gabriel comes to Daniel and he says, look, Daniel, I'm making known to you what will happen in the time of the end. He He says that again in verse 19, in the latter time of the indignation, for at the appointed time the end shall be. Later on in verse 25 or 26 of chapter 8, he says, seal up the vision, keep it secret. Different translations will say, for it is many days in the future, which means far down into the future. These prophecies have been applied in the past, but I believe we've proven it, that they're going to have a future fulfillment also. Now, the other power that's mentioned in this is a ram, other than the ram, it's the he-goat. The he-goat actually has 5 horns. We know this in verse 5 or verse 6, 5, 6, 7, and 8 talks about this notable horn. Also talks about 4 other horns. Now, the notable horn would be the United States of America leading a charge against the ram. This is recorded in the prophecy. I'd like to encourage you to read that prophecy very carefully. So it talks about this notable horn being the United States of America comes from the west across the surface of the whole earth. This can be no other area in the world than the United States of America. It's very interesting that New York was the starting place of the UN. The United States made that available after the Second World War. So this power comes from the West. The headquarters of the UN is in the West. Also, they have a place in Europe as well. But the headquarters originally was in the US. So the UN will go to war against Islam when Islam makes its move for world dominance, because Russia's not going to go along with this, China's not going to go along with this, England's not going to go along with this, and Europe is not going to go along with this. Very interesting. We have 5 members in the permanent members of the Security Council in the UN, and that is England, France, Russia, China, and the United States. They are not in favor of Islamic dominance in the world, and they will join together, just as in the First World War we had Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt joining up to fight against Hitler in Japan. Who would have guessed that Stalin would have teamed up with the United States and England? He did, because they had a common foe, and this is what we're going to see develop. Now, it says that the United States will lead the charge. This is number one reason why we do believe that Donald Trump will be the one to do this. They are provoked. It says he is enraged against the ram. Why is that? We believe that Israel will be involved, and the charge will be led by the United States because something has happened with Israel and the Muslims. That would enrage the notable horn, and he would be led to attack. Another one would be terrorism in the United States. We believe both are going to be a part of this. This is what we're looking at as a kickoff for the time of the end. Yeshua said war would be the first thing, and civil unrest. We're seeing the rumors of wars, and we're seeing the civil unrest now. This whole thing is going to come about. We've said for a long time that we believe Donald Trump will be the one to do this. This is because of his support of Israel. If we look at Joe Biden, his support of Israel and Democrats' support of Israel isn't anything like what it is with Donald Trump. So this is one of the reasons. The other reason is because a parallel prophecy to Daniel 8 tells us that in Daniel chapter 11, verses 1 through 4, tells us that there will be a war against the kings of Media and Persia and the kingdom of Greece. We're going to talk about the kingdom of Greece in a moment. But it says, a mighty king will arise at this time and do according to his will. We believe this to be none other than Donald Trump. But it says when he's arisen, he will be broken. Now, when we go back to Daniel 8, it says the same thing of the notable horn. In chapter 11, it says he will be broken and it will be divided to the 4 winds. Now, when we go back to Daniel 8, in verse 8, Daniel 8, verse 8, it tells us that the goat, after the war with Islam, after the victory over Islam. That this GOAT power that's made up of the 5 UN security members, it says it becomes very strong. That's because there's no opposition anymore for a one world order, because Islam is not going to go along with the one world order. That's why Islam has to be taken out. So the GOAT, the movement to a one world order after the war becomes very great. But it's interesting what it says there. It says, when the goat is great, the large horn is broken. I propose that the reason why the large horn is broken is the same reason that the large horn, the United States, there's an attempt today in the United States to break it. What am I talking about? Well, the Democrats are more in line with a one world order and a new world order. More in line with joining up with Europe, more in line with allowing China to come in, and everyone just lives happily ever after in this global village. Everyone's heard of that name. The common good of society is everyone works together nicely. Well, we know as conservative Christians where that's going. We don't want any part of that. Well, it's interesting that Donald Trump doesn't want any part of it either. Neither does Boris Johnson. Let's not forget that. Let's keep our eyes and ears open in that regard too. Well, we believe through different means, whether it's legal terms or Donald Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, and we hear about him just declaring martial law and so on. We believe, however this happens, it'll all be legal according to the Constitution. They're not going to operate outside the Constitution. They have every right to do what they're going to do. We believe that Donald Trump, whichever way this goes, will get back in and make America great again. This is how we're viewing the prophecies. This is just, we've been talking about this for years. And we do believe that Donald Trump will have another 4 years. And all the rest of this will play out. Now, what does that mean for us in the meantime? What it means, number one, if it goes through the courts and the courts actually decide, which it does not appear that's the way it's going to happen. But it's not over yet as far as that goes. It's looking very evident, widespread, all kinds of things that have happened in this election. All kinds of different types of fraud have happened. They've proven this beyond a shadow of a doubt, at least in my mind. If the courts don't go along with this, then I believe Donald Trump will pull the plug on all of what's gone on, and he will declare martial law and so on, and we could have extreme civil unrest. Now, this is just the reality. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means a lot of things. If we have civil unrest and trucking lines are stopped or at least limited, we're going to see all kinds of rations here in Canada, because the border could close right up, even as far as traffic in and out of the country is concerned. That means there could be gas shortages, there could be food shortages, and so on. So we want you to pay close attention to what's going on, because when this thing happens, it's going to happen very fast. Now, we have friends in the States that have already told us that they're close relatives. I'm not going to name any names or anything, but this is no secret in the military, so I'm not disclosing any secrets. It may be a secret as far as civilians are concerned, but I want at least the people that are listening to our ministry to be warned. Is we know people have told us that their close relatives have been called to duty without any leave for the next 6 months. This starts on January 5th. Very interesting. And January 6th is when it's finalized on the electors. So if it doesn't go the way that it should go, then we could see Marines and military already in place for the civil unrest that's going to take place. we're looking at the possibility of civil war as well. It's not out of the realm. We are going to see some kind of civil unrest. The conservatives, if it goes the way of Joe Biden, they could very possibly raise up. Now, don't forget, these are the Second Amendment people that are fully armed and fully ready to go, and they are patriots, and they're not going to let their country go down to this election fraud. We're also going to see the Democrats, if Trump, President Trump, does this, which is within his full right to do this as far as the Constitution is concerned, then the left is going to raise up as well. So I don't see any way out of some kind of major civil unrest in the States. Whether it develops into a full-on civil war, we're going to have to wait and see. But we are encouraging people to do what they can to get a little bit of food, make sure they have a little extra gas on hand, maybe purchase a few gas cans extra, have it on hand, so that you will be able to go somewhere if you needed to go. Have your tank on the top side of half. Doesn't cost you any money extra to have it on the higher side than it does on the lower side. So make these provisions. Have extra water on hand, have some extra food on hand for this interruption. Now, the people that we have talked to, they were told that they're going to be called to duty for the next six months with no leaves. That tells us they're expecting at least 6 months of civil unrest. Could be more. Not going to tell these people it's going to be a year because they don't want to get everyone worked up. So 6 months tells me it could be longer. So start preparing for something like this so that you're ready for this. We're not trying to alarm people. Well, we are in a way. We're trying to help people understand. I don't want anyone coming back to me and say, well, you knew this was going to happen, but you didn't warn us. No, we are warning everyone we can. There's a little window here. It's time to take that last paycheck and spend a few extra dollars here and there. And again, contact people that you know are on the same wavelength and are doing some preparing, and network with people. It's never been more important. And here again, I do not believe that we are going down for good. This is a blip, if you will, but it could be several months, could be 6 months, could be longer. So it's time to prepare for that little rough time. I do believe it's never going to get back to normal, but I do believe that this will settle out. We will have another little time of prosperity where Donald Trump will go to work to make America great again. But this effort to take the United States down will happen, but it won't happen now. This is a warning. It tells us all that the world wants the United States to go down, but I don't believe they're going to succeed in this effort. China's been involved, Russia's been involved, Europe has been involved in this effort to take the United States down. It will happen. We're told later on in the prophecy that it will happen. Daniel chapter 8, verse 8 tells us that the United States will be broken, but we're not there yet. So that'll be the main event. But this will be after a war. This will be after more moving forward with the New World Order. And so on. So we want people to be aware of that. Now people say, well, it says the king of Grecia in verse 21. It talks about the king of Grecia, the first king. Well, we have a problem. It says in verse 5, I believe it says this power from the west across the surface of the whole earth. So that's an inconsistency. If this is talking about Alexander the Great, he did not come across the surface of the whole earth. He did not live at the end of time. 3 times in chapter 8, it tells us this is the time of indignation, the time of the end. That's what the vision is for. This king of Grecia, if you take it back, it says the king of Javan. Now you take that back to Genesis. The sons of Noah. Japheth was one of the sons of Noah. His descendants went west. So the Western nations came out of it. Tells us this in Genesis. we'll have it up on the screen here. In Genesis, it tells us that this Javan's son, his descendants, Japheth, one of his descendants, I believe it was his grandson, was Javan. And it says, from his descendants, the people of the west and the isles of the west came. And so they dispersed westward. So that would be from Europe and so on. And of course, America came out of Europe. And this is what we see. The sons of Javan came from there. So in the time of the end, the sons of Javan, or Javan, this mighty king from the west, comes and defeats Islam. But this mighty king, the United States, will be broken after this. Why? I believe for the same reason that Islam is broken, because they are not willing to go along with this New World Order. Why? Because it's made up of conservatives. But we know this New World Order will move forward, and I'm going to have a presentation and show exactly how this is coming down. I'm working on that right now. That was going to be my next presentation. But I believed that I needed to help people understand the immediate emergency that we have. And I'm going to go through this and show how this will develop in detail using the prophecies and go verse by verse through them. But I just wanted to leave you with that. It is time to prepare, folks. Time to get ready for an emergency, because it's coming faster than we can believe, or we want to believe. Here again, we are watching. We will keep you updated on how we see things develop. But today is the day that the Electoral College is to put forward their vote to the United States, 14th of December. And if it goes the way it looks like it's going, and they will elect Biden on the 6th of January is when all this is ratified in Congress. And that's the magic date. But nothing is actually finalized until the 20th of January. So we have a little window, a little opportunity, where all the people that are all sleeping are thinking business as usual. But I want to tell you, business is not as usual. It's time to prepare. And as Yeshua warned us, pray that your flight be not in the winter or on the Sabbath. He's talking ultimately about the end, but his concern is for the welfare of his people. And he has given us these prophecies so that we can be warned in advance for what's coming, and we can prepare so that we do not have to suffer like those that are asleep. There's so many warnings in Scripture. Don't sleep as others do. Be awake, be alert, so we can be prepared, not only spiritually, which is the utmost importance. If that's all the preparation you've done, that's enough. But he also wants us to be physically prepared as well, mentally prepared as well for what's coming. It'll make things much easier for us to ride out this storm. I'd like to say, when we talk about physical preparation and maybe getting out of the large population areas and so on, this really is not about saving our own skin. Our purpose, when we come to a knowledge of the truth, our purpose is to save others that have not either heard of the truth or so on. Our purpose is to tell people that there is hope. There's hope in another kingdom, not the kingdom of this world. You see, the problem with the left, and I would say, that's in Canada and in Europe and so on, and in the United States, there's a mass movement, and global warming is all part of that, is that they can save the world. Well, it's quite evident that they cannot. All man's devisings are going to come to nothing. The only way this world is going to be saved, of course, is through Yeshua. But the other side doesn't see that. So we believe that Yeshua has the answer to all of these problems. And that is our hope. So that's our spiritual preparation, to be on the side of Yeshua, on the side of the truth. But also physically, we don't want to understate the importance for us to be physically healthy, physically in a position to be able to share the word with people. If we're sick and dying and so on, and we're starving, we're not much of a witness to people. But if we're in good health, we're in a safe place where we can witness to people. And I say, where we are up in the mountains, we have access to internet. As long as the internet is still working, we can share the word with many, many more people than we could even in the city. So our purpose is to enlighten the world with what we understand, and with the soon coming of Yeshua. But the problem is, we're going to have to go through, I call it a knothole backwards, before he comes, and that's why he's warned us of it. But ultimately, we can't save ourselves. The left cannot save the planet by implementing all these things with global warming and so on. The problem is much, much bigger than that. And so we are looking for a soon coming king. And that's how our salvation will come. Not through man's devisings. But on the way, we want to be spiritually and physically prepared for what's coming, so that we are in a better position to help people when everything breaks loose and people are wanting to know what is going on, and we will have the answer. So that's why we want to preserve our lives, not to run and hide. Yeshua said, he who saves his life will lose it. So it's not about saving your life and your skin and so on. It's about helping God fulfill the last message. When this gospel of the kingdom will go to all the world, then the end will come. Actively participate in the call of our Father to enlighten the world of his coming, and just go to work and do that. If you find yourself in the city and you can't get out, just go to work, do his work. Find yourself doing his work, and he will provide a way. So I want to say God bless you again. May our Father lead you and guide you into all truth and show you things to come. This is the promise of Yeshua in chapter 16 of John, so that we can be ready. We'll talk to you again soon, and thank you for listening, and keep moving forward. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now from Camp to Meet.